unworthiness. It's such a familiar story, isn't it? I think we all know this one in one way or another. And it's so painful. And once again, if we are willing to feel it beyond the story of it, right? So the story is endless, right? We tend to go round and round in circles, telling ourselves these stories of how unworthy we are or how we don't deserve this or that, blaming ourselves, keeping ourselves small. But if we are willing, and it takes some courage to step out of the story and bring our attention to the sensations. And it doesn't mean that we push away the story or that we make it wrong. We just shift the attention. So the story is going on, telling the same thing. And when we remember, if we can, it's not always possible, we bring our attention to the body. How am I feeling as I tell this story? Oh, it hurts. Feeling the pain in the chest or in the belly. Perhaps it's really, really painful, like a punch in the gut. Perhaps it's so painful that it's almost unbearable, which is why we go back to the thought story to avoid feeling the absolute agony of that sensation. We rather tell that story and keep feeding that story and just being with the sensation. But you may notice that as long as you are telling that story again and again and overlooking the present sensation, you're just simply feeding it and there seems to be no way out. I mean, you can change the thought story to a different story temporarily. It doesn't necessarily work for very long before the same old story comes back again. But that doesn't ever really get to the root of it. So coming to the sensation, although it's uncomfortable or even really painful, we're meeting it face to face. And we're no longer feeding it. So we're no longer adding more fuel to this story. And as we meet the sensation as it is presently, we are giving it actually what it is asking for: attention, love. And we're not doing that in order to make it go away. We're not doing that for any reason. We're only doing that because this is what's here. So we may as well meet it. We're going to have to meet it at some point, one way or another. So we may as well meet it now. There's no time like the present. And you may discover that it's not as bad as you fear. And maybe when you meet it, the thought story comes back in again and you go off into the thought story again. And you may have to again and again bring your attention to what is presently happening in the sensations. And each time you do that, you're reminding yourself that actually the reality is in what is present, not in the thought story that talks about a me that is unworthy for whatever reason. That is not the truth. That is a story that you're just telling yourself, a dream. The reality is this sensation. this experience now. It's very simple. It may not be always so easy to bring the attention out of the thoughts. It does seem to take courage because we're so used to spinning with these thoughts. They're so familiar. And this story of unworthiness can seem like as if that's the real me. Right? That's my true identity. You may even cover it over with some other story pretending to be really fine. And that's perhaps what you show the world because you don't want anyone to see that how you truly feel about yourself is that you're so absolutely unworthy. So we have these layers of stories that we tell ourselves, and it seems sometimes that this deeper story is the one that we hold to be the real me. But when we can bring our attention to the sensations that are happening with that story, we can see in that moment that that's not the real me at all. I'm not the one that this thought story of unworthiness is talking about. I'm simply awareness of this sensation now, this timeless presence being filled in this moment by this sensation. And it may be uncomfortable, but this is what's happening. And there's such a sense of holding and embracing and love when we meet ourselves in this way. Sometimes it can help even to hold this body and put our hands on our hearts or our belly to just really acknowledge, like, yeah, I'm here with you. I'm here with this human that has its stories, its conditioning, its wounds, its traumas. But who I really am is so much bigger. I am that big embrace that holds it all. And I hold this human, this woman, man, or whatever, just the way you are. Right now.